as you can see, I gotta mix up some new Painto. Which I always look forward to at the beginning of my thing, but at the moment, I think the trickiest thing I'm learning with this powdered pigment is its lifespan is not very long. So it'll dry out really, really quickly. So I don't want to mix up a lot. I'm not going to use a lot. I mean, luckily it's a 50 gram and I'm not using a lot at all. For example, I just put this powder in. It was a little damp inside the container, so it's got a little damp. I use this little measury scoopy. And I'm gonna move my coffee away from the table before I dip something. I don't use hot water. So I'm just gonna use a very little amount of water in here, because I just want to make this a little paste before I mix in the clear gesso. Gesso again. I don't really know how to pronounce it. I'll pronounce it differently many times. Butt of a very long. Oh, yeah. See. In fact, that might have been a little bit too much water. I may add a little bit more powder. And we're gonna use this. You can't even see it. You're just looking at my hand stirring. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm looking for my. I'll reach the paper towels farthest away as possible. So on the octopus, which is set up on the canvas, you can see the sand that I did before. The bioluminescence is going to come on his little feet. On little suckers. I mean, possibly. Conjecture. I don't know if these particular octopus have bioluminescence, but this pigment is non-toxic. There we go. Yeah, I want to be a piece. Pasty. It's interesting how, I don't know if you can tell, it's, turn off my I have a second spot, which I thought would help to see the mixing, but I think that the paint is so receptive to any light that it just really kind of just gives it right back to you. Like it's glowing in here under the light. But I don't know if you can tell, as I'm stirring it, the faster I go, it almost looks chunky. So it almost behaves like a non-Newtonian fluid. Like, the more I agitate it, the more chunky it looks, and then when I stop, it just smooths out again. here, the grain of the pigment, it's very gritty, which I like because it gives it a texture, which is helpful when I'm using clear gesso as the binder, because once it dries, it's a little bit more transparent. Now, this part gets tricky. I don't want to drown this. So I'm going to move it. Essentially, I want to put a little less than equal. But not a lot of gesso in here. Glad this got a strong cast. Kind of looking to see if it drips. What the heck is, what music do I have on here? Oh, that's fine. I think I need a little bit more. Scientific? No. Alright. I just want to see how this feels. Anything to pin it on. Essentially what I'm doing right now is I'm testing the pigment load in the actual paint. It's going to dry for a hot second. It should dry relatively quickly, and then I should be able to feel the pigment. should is the opposite word in that sentence. I did put it down on plastic. Yeah, see? Ooh, but that's not a lot of pigment. I cannot... So, the pigment that I was using on my Old Man of the Sea painting, the mix, it was a different base. I based it off of, or I put clear gesso and titanium white because I didn't want it to be clear. Which naturally this is going to be. Or rather, not going to be, but it's going to be as clear as I can get it with the pigment load in this. Because I don't want it to be as obviously bright. And I don't think I need the reflective backing of the titanium white that I used on the other one. Just because the basis of the Old Man in the Sea picture, he had very white dots all over him as it was. Oh, that should be better. I want it to move like pudding. Essentially, that's what I'm looking for. Better. I mean, all we can do is put it on and see, right? It's thin enough that a first pass shouldn't do us any harm. So... I am going to adjust the camera. I apologize in advance. Hello. Oh, look at Beauty. Come on, tip a little bit. I know I messed with you. You can do it. I believe. I don't know why this just doesn't want to tip. There we go. That'll do. Autofocus. That helps out. Alright. We're gonna start to put this all up in his business here. So I'm gonna mute myself and start painting. You're gonna sit back and enjoy the show. We're gonna have a comfortable, easy evening together. Once I find my paintbrush. Looks right. And let's remember, don't drink the paint water. Alright, I'm gonna turn the music up just so you're warned. but I keep calling him. On all of the suckers. And once I get enough down, we'll charge up the picture and see if it glows. To see if I actually mix the pigment right. But I can already tell I'm gonna probably need a couple more layers on a few of these. But the pigment color looks right to me. But this octopus was filmed about 2,000 meters down in the Pacific Basin. Somewhere in the Pacific. I can't remember off the top of my head. I have a file with it written down somewhere, but I don't know where it is right now. Or rather, I didn't pull it up before I started painting. So. Also, the glow-in-the-dark stickers are theoretical. We don't actually know how they bioluminesce. We just know that 80% of the life at this sea level will bioluminesce, so. Oh, is it really quiet? Sorry. I have the music pretty loud, so I tend to not talk over the music too much. Yes, it is glow-in-the-dark paint. Which I've mixed. It's actually a powdered pigment. Well, the weird thing is I don't use any complicated mixers. So the music always stays at one volume for me. And I can't actually tell what it sounds like on your end. I've tried to listen in on my tablet, but I can't get a realistic idea of what it sounds like. Oh, plus my mic's not really pointed away. Pointed towards me. Good. I'm glad it sounds better. But yeah, I was saying this guy was filmed, or rather this species lives in most of the world's oceans, down about 2,000 meters. And once I get a good layer on, we'll charge the picture up and see how well it glows. See if I get the picture mode right. I can change it. Yeah, I'll put on some lo-fi or some chill. There we go. I'm not listening to it. I listen to it for like the first 10 minutes and then take my headphones off. It's mostly so that it's background noise and you're not sitting in silence. All right, let's see. All right, I'm gonna blast a lot of light onto this picture. It's about to get a big, bright spot. And while I do that, I'm gonna turn off my overheads. This is why I can I do this painting at night. because I don't have curtains in my studio, so I get the light in when it's daytime. Nice. Yeah, I'm obsessed with marine biology. I was also just tragically cursed with a very, very severe seafood allergy to the point where I'm allergic to sea salt. So my dreams of becoming a marine biologist kind of like just tumbled. So in its place, I can paint. And so I study it from afar. But I try to paint newly discovered species that live below 1,500 meters. Well, anywhere between 1,000 and 4,000 meters generally is what I focus on. This one was imaged about 2,000 meters down. It's going to take a moment for it to charge up. I'm actually going to drop the painting a little bit. There we go. You should be able to see it in just a moment. Or at least the first test. But I'm hopeful. This paint has been really nice, this pigment. I actually experimented with this powdered pigment, which is this. This is what I'm using. On a different painting just to make sure I could do it before I did it on this painting. And it came out really well on the other painting, so. Alright. Let's see if it does anything. This may take a moment. Well, yeah, that's true. I follow the, NOAA has a ship out, the Okeanos. They run 2 deep sea rovers, 2 ROVs down, and they only do places that have never been imaged before. So I watch their streams because they publish it all, they broadcast it on to the internet for the public. I watch all of their streams, find the species that they discover that are new, and then do as much research as I possibly can. Now, no, this is actually blue. This octopus is an actual blue light. Oh yeah, no. This is actual glow-in-the-dark paint. No, this is actual glow-in-the-dark paint. Alright. So, this may take a moment for my camera to pick it up if it flares up nicely. But I'm going to turn off the spot. And then I'm going to turn off the other one. I'm going to try and block the monitor really quick. Or as much as I can. Because I want the ambient light to get out. Let's see if this does anything. It may not because it's only one pass. Ah! No! That definitely lights up. Yeah, so that's it. I'm blocking the monitor a little bit. Can you see it? Yeah. Alright, so that definitely glows. That's nice. That is not a black light. I just turned off all my lights. Cool. That works. Let's see. I have to... These need a second coat. These are fine. Cool. Ah. Nice bit of glare there. Awesome. It looks a lot more, it looks glowier in person, I guess you could say. When the camera picks it up, it almost looks like it's being lit up by the computer screen, slightly. But the cool thing about this particular pigment is the glow is blue. So Stuart Semple makes a line of glow-in-the-dark pigments. He has orange, blue, green, and actually what this is it's a teal blue. Yeah. Awesome. So now we get to do the rest of the suckers. And we're gonna have to do them all in one go because this stuff will dry very quickly. That is the only thing so far that I've found I can't figure out how to stop. Usually, I have a wet palette technique, like, for example, I'm gonna pull this out. My palette for this painting is sitting in this bag. And the paper towel is wet so that it just stays moist so I can just open it up and use it whenever. But I've tried it with the glow-in-the-dark paint. It doesn't work. But I've only just started experimenting with it. Nope. What I'm actually combining the pigment with, since it's just pure powder, like this is just a powder in here. And it's a white clear powder, and I'm combining it with... Now, Stuart Semple makes a binder, a clear binder. It's been sold out for months, so I can't get a hold of it. So I'm using clear gesso, which is essentially an acrylic binder. It gives tooth to a painting. I'm using that as the binder. Nope, acrylic. I could use this in oil. I would need actual what is it? Linseed oil? I think it is. No. There's a specific oil I would need to actually mix it with to use it with oil paint. But the same thing, it would act as like a glaze on top of the paint. Which is why on the I keep calling them polyps because the last painting I did was a coral, which was just polyps forever. It was 70 hours of polyps. So now I can't stop saying it. But his suckers, I painted them white on the most prominent ones, and that should, theoretically, if I do this right, show up the brightest. Where the ones with just the blue should be paler, even with the glow. It worked that way on my other painting, the first one that I started this with. Oh, not really with the acrylics, because the finished look would look different. It would stand out more, and the oil wouldn't interact with the actual base paint well. Like it would strip the base paint underneath it. There are things that you could use to extend the drying time of acrylic paints, but since this is not really a true acrylic paint, this is essentially a Frankenstein thing that I've created as a way of making sure that the powdered pigment goes onto the picture. Which is essentially just old school painting. Artists originally always used to mix their own pigments. And all pigments are powdered. And you have to mix it with water first. That's the issue. Acrylics have a water base, a water soluble base when you're mixing it. Yeah. But I did go through 2 of these pots already. Like these little, luckily I'm using so little, but I've already gone through 2 of these wasted because they dried too quickly, so. But you know what? It's worth it. Now, the nice thing is that I can kind of use the stream to help me because I can see the paint on the stream much more visibly than I can in real life. Because it's much more transparent in real life, but because it is glow-in-the-dark paint that is currently under light, the camera does pick it up more readily. And so it appears very white because it's just picking up the reflection and the saturation of the light against it. The fluorescence, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It is kind of like painting with a very fine powdered sand. What program do you use? I am and will ever always be fond of Photoshop. I used to be certified in Photoshop as a guru. Way back in the day. They still did that. I don't know if they do that anymore. I do dabble around in the I have a MetaQuest 2, so I have the Google Tilt Brush program. I do dabble in that. That's fun, but I need people to I need a programmer to improve the toolbox. I've never used Clip Studio. I've heard about it though. I tried Maya way back in the day, but the interface is too intimidating. And then I tried Blender, which is also an intimidating interface, but I loved Maya. Like, I love the end result of Maya, even if I couldn't use it. But ZBrush, I hear, is really nice. I hear very good things about ZBrush. But Photoshop for life. Give me Photoshop and a tablet and I'm happy. With a good pen. Oh no, I worked in Photoshop 1.0. Do you remember, although I have to say the best Photoshop was Photoshop 6? Right before they changed the lens flare. Not the lens flare, sorry. The there was a layer setting you could use that was like a burned light effect that they did wrong. And yet the wrong aspect of it was so perfect. And then they patched it after 6. Yeah, that's what I hear about ZBrush, which is why I was interested in it. Because I do sculpt as well. Which is kind of what I was looking forward to in Google Tilt and with the tilt brush. I think my issue with it is once I build the object, I want to just be able to paint directly onto the surface with the same brush to create the texture, material, etc. I can't figure out how to do that. Or if you even can. Yeah, 6 stuck around forever. Because it was their strongest build. That's the actual one that I got certified in. Way back in the 90s. As I said, I'm old. I think it's perfectly acceptable for an artist. Don't dry. Really? I will have to check out Medium. Yeah, Adobe purchased a lot of stuff. I still remember when Adobe purchased Macromedia. Took over Flash and Dreamweaver and all of those programs. It was scandalous in the web community back then. I actually went wandering into just to see if some of the old programs that I used to use were still around, and I discovered that one of my favorite programs, Bryce 3D, never went away. Actually got bought out by a company that revitalized it and it's still doing its thing. I melted a computer using Bryce 3D once. As I said. But I used to do graphic design and web design in the early rodeo days of the internet back in the 90s. I have to remix this. I'm starting to get little... When it starts to dry around the edges, these will flake off into the mix. And I just have to rehydrate them. Oh, that had to be freaky. Oh, that's not fun. Alright, that should do it. That actually reminds me of like the one and only thing I ever did. Oh, nice. Oh god, yeah, that .com crash was terrible. But I don't mind it too much. I ended up, after the company I was working for fell through, as so many did during that time, I ended up going to work for a bookstore and stayed there for like 17 years. It was great. Yeah, that's freaky. It does remind me that the only thing I ever did on Twitter, when it was still Twitter, and when it was new, because I went and found all of my name twins on Twitter, and I just basically sent them all a message saying, hey, I'm your name twin. Just checking in, seeing how you are. And for about 2 months, there was like a whole bunch of Melissas talking to each other. Nice. There we go, that's better. Getting weirdly smushy. But I like hearing about all that stuff. I still do. I collect antique computer equipment. My dad used to do alpha testing for IBM back in like the early 80s, late 70s. So I grew up with a computer. And so like retro computers, retro software, love it. Don't love that though. That was too wide. Oh god, unreal. Yeah. Did that for a bit. I have to say, I did luck out for a very brief, well, not a brief period of time, for 6 months. Me and two of my friends, we actually managed to land, because I was working as a graphic artist at the time. Uh, we landed a gig with a company where we ended up doing, back when they still did paid alpha testing, we worked for 6 months, 8 hours a day, alpha testing the original Quake 2 multiplayer and the original EverQuest, like first version EverQuest. Before EverQuest was even released, when it was still in alpha, like early alpha. It was fantastic. We kind of got sucked into that. Oh my god. I still remember when like the 500 megabyte hard drive came out and we were all like, oh my god, 500 megs. What are we gonna do with all that space? Play so much StarCraft on it. Yeah, I know. Convinced, and now it's like, it's only a gig? Christ, that's not enough room. But then at this point, I have so many games that, like, 500 gigs is not enough room. Yeah, Lord of the Rings Online. Nice. It was a fun gig. It was sad that it was only a 6-month contract, because it was such a high demand job at that point that they only allowed you to do 6 month stints. But man, 8 hours a day playing video games, sold. Mind you, it wasn't always fun. There were days, because I was a texture model analyst. So my job was to walk every pixel of every zone to try and trigger a graphical error, which I did at times. It was pretty funny, but sometimes it was really boring. And other times I would find a flaw that would break the entire map, and the mods would have to shut down all of the servers until they fixed it. If I could still play it, I've got a shelf full of them. I don't have nothing to play them on at the moment, but I still have like the original Diablo on CD. God, I've got a ton of stuff. But I still have my Commodore 64, and that still works, and I can still play games on it. So this little guy just landed on my paintbrush. What are you doing? Why are you on my paintbrush? Don't mention the Atari 2600 to me. I'm still bitter. I had the original Atari 2600. I had every title ever printed for the 2600. I went off to college. I came home after about 2 months to find that my father had sold the entire collection to my neighbor for about $100. I freaked out. It's still a point of contention in my family. He did concede that he should not have sold it. Nope. No other. Yankee through and through. Up in Pennsylvania. Up in the wild mountains of Pennsylvania. Hiding out in my little hermitage. The closest I've lived to in the South was Colorado. I lived in Boulder and Denver briefly, but that's west, it's not the South. That's still the closest I've been. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I have tons of ladybugs up here. Tons of them. And especially in the wintertime, I turn the heat up a little bit because when I'm painting, if it's too cold, the paint dries out fast. Like you have to have it like a really weird temperature. Too hot, the paint dries too quickly. Too cold, the paint gets too like thick. So I do crank the temperature up a little bit when I'm painting, and that wakes the ladybugs up from their hibernation, and they start coming out. But they are ladybugs. They're not the Japanese ones that are bad. Those I get rid of. Real ladybugs can stay. Tennessee? Tennessee's nice. I have friends down in Tennessee. But I like the weather. I like weather. I like seasons. I like winter and fall and spring and summer. Like, I actually do like snow. So. But even now, we don't really get much of it anyway. Oh, too much. I used to be very resistant to traditional art, traditional learning. I was very much purely digital, self-taught, everything. But I got to a point where I noticed I wasn't improving. Like, I hit a wall, and I needed to do something about it. So I'm like, all right, well, let's take an art class. And so one art class, another art class. And then I went back to traditional painting and got 10 times better at it than I ever was at digital art. I learned how to paint people, like I learned how to draw people and get realistic, which is something I never did with digital. And I just find myself much more creative with physical mediums. He was a texture painter. That sounds like a texture painter. Which is fine to a certain point, but I would never want someone to start with texture painting. I'm very big on starting very traditionally. If you're gonna go, like, if you're gonna learn traditional painting or traditional art, like, start as basic as and traditional as possible. Like, color theory, color theory, light theory, shape painting. Those are the places where I ended up starting. So, you know, slight bias, but they were also some of the most useful, especially color theory. Color theory and anatomy. Even though right now I'm working on an octopus, I do a lot of figure and portrait study. But my big dreams are I want to paint a life-size, hyper-realistic great white shark. Like life-size. Life-size. So giant. and as detailed as I possibly can. But I'd also like to do a traditional aquarist sculpture, which, if you're not familiar, an aquarist sculpture is, it doesn't have to be life size. I would like to do one life size. But you build a human figure from the bone, and then you lay in the muscles, and then you finally lay on the skin. So you're literally building the human from the bone out. And it's one of the best ways to really nail anatomy and be able to understand how the form works. And man, if there's one thing I could tell modern game designers, is to take a basic anatomy class, an art anatomy class. Just take one. If I have to look, as I do every year, in the Overwatch anniversary, at that broken Junkrat arm, drives me mad. Open an anatomy book. Wow, these really look very bright on screen. That's funny. Hey. Ma'am, I am painting. You can go. Thank you. I think I've got to turn my overheads on again. That's why she's here. Hold on, I'll be right back. Yee. Let's see if that gets her to leave me alone. 10 years working in games? Or just playing games? Playing games, I get you beat by quite a bit. Oh yeah. Best way to do sculpture for a form is that way you know the way the poses will work. There's actually a Japanese company that makes posable action figures for artists that are so well done because they take into the account how the muscles should look in different poses. Working way more playing? Yeah. Good for you. Me, I just play them. The only thing I'd be good at game-wise in a work sense would be concept art. And maybe background art. I doubt it. I very much doubt it. I mean, I don't know. That's true. But I am having a very monumental birthday this February that will officially tip me into the old category. But I've yet to decide what to do about it. Or not do about it, but do for it. Because, you know. Oh, yeah. I actually find that problem to be, or not problem, but one of the challenging aspects they're finding now, or at least that I can pick up, is, they're getting the underlying musculature down, but now they're having the problem with light through skin, where, because light passes through skin to a certain extent, but it stops and it's obstructed by what is underneath the skin. But you still want to have a little bit of that luminescence, and that's where they're kind of getting stuck at the moment. Because the computer understands that there has to be light coming through, doesn't understand that there's variation in the flesh to make that light different. Judging from my bio, what's in my bio? I don't even remember. Possibly. But I will be 50 in February. Big 5-0. If you got that beat, good for you. we be old and reclaim our gloriousness. Subsurface scattering. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. I'm very bad with terminology, but I know it when I hear it or see it. Yeah. Yeah, they're getting better. They're getting a lot better. I think it's all about density in the material or modeling the density of material. Trying to lay in the barest of lines for these. Hopefully there'll be enough pigment in there to show up at all. Maybe. See? I think that puts us right around the same age, so good. Celebrate the old. Oh, purpose. So illustration tends to be for things where I'll do for, how do I explain it, like magazines, newspapers, spot illustrations, book illustrations, things that are going to be complementing something else. They're working beside something else. So a lot of my illustration goes with other things, which I don't have anymore. So some of the illustration that I have on the site was illustration done for magazines or for old spot ads. The concepts for that stuff as well, I'll put in the illustration category. Where with fine art, they stand alone. So that's kind of where I draw the line between the two. Illustration just always, for me, tends to be complementary to a meaning. Or has an overarching narrative. If that makes sense. I think I have one or two things in my illustration category that kind of should fit into the fine art category, but I keep them in illustration. That's the Bubo's toy box, clockwork toy box. But I kind of put them in illustration because they do have a very specific theme to them that goes beyond their individual paintings. So. Those are all of my, I call them palette cleansers. Because I do those illustrations in between these. And I think I don't see any other places here that need it on this side. Except for that. trying to be very light in this last little bit for this one, because this is the most shadowed limb. Which, I mean, obviously bioluminescence isn't really going to care about the shadow. But there still will be some obstruction of the light. Just because in my mock-up I have light coming from this direction here. That's awesome. Yeah, there was a couple of textures in EverQuest that actually stayed in EverQuest for... They went through EverQuest 1 all the way through EverQuest 2 and stayed through almost until some of the more recent patches, until they finally cycled the textures out that were mine, that I developed for the game. And that was a nice little thing where I would go in and be like, yep, that's mine. I did that texture there. And mind you, all of my textures were just patch textures. It was when I would find errors in the pattern, I would fix it and resubmit, and they would put it in and give me credit. Oh yeah, particulate matter in the water, it's called marine snow. But it's not as pleasant as snow. It's poop and dead things, and poop and dead things, and poop and dead things. Corpses of diatoms and flagellates. All sorts of things. This is gonna be tricky because this is just a line all the way down. So just one. Oh yeah, placeholder text was great. We always like finding like the weird game errors. There's one time in EverQuest before, because it's a big game, it's a multiplayer big world game. But before, in the alpha stage, they didn't implement any sort of like transverse system. Like there was no ships to sail across. You had to actually just walk the zones to get from one side of the continent to another. And we spent, I would say, a good half an hour in game walking from one side of the continent to another because we had an assignment to get to. And we got, I would say, 90% of the way there. And then the last zone we popped through, my friend Sean, his character model popped through, but generated at max height and then plummeted to its death. And we just sat there and watched it, stunned. And then had this wonderful realization that his respawn was going to be back in the starting location on the other side of the continent that we just spent a half an hour walking our character models across. And spent like the rest of our day laughing at Sean. Fun times. Let the GM know that Sean was gonna be a little late. Why? Because he died. Oh no, where? Here. Like, oh god, okay. if this would work better with a toothpick. No toothpicks. No more of those fun times. They don't do those at games anymore. Although early access is always fun. Just want to see if this is going to work better. Oh, maybe. Don't dry on me. Maybe not. All right, back to the brush. Oh. Oh, I bet. I play Sea of Thieves with my best friend's son, who's gonna be 16 this year. Good lord. And it's always fun. He loves looking at my traditional art. But I have to wonder how much of it's novelty, because he's just so immersed and used to digital art at this point. I do love this pigment, but it is killing my baby brush. It's essentially, it's like painting with sand. It's gotten so much better, honestly. And they actually just introduced Saber Seas, where if you don't like PvP, or you just want to like play the game storyline, you can actually create a solo instance with no other people. It's not easy. There's still like PvP or PvE, but I love it. I think the trick to it is that there's a saying, I guess, in Sea of Thieves. Treasure isn't yours until you sell it. And if you go in with that mindset, It makes it a lot easier so that when you get rolled and lose all your stuff after getting a bunch of things, doesn't hurt as bad. But it's a beautiful game. But it's not for everyday gaming. Everyday gaming is more like Overwatch. Alright, I don't want to mess up that on the end. I'm going to flip this. And then give me a moment, I'll flip the camera. That doesn't look upside down to you. Right. Oh yeah, they literally just implemented it. It's only about 2 weeks old. And you can have a maximum of 3 other people, so you can run a galleon with 4 people in a private server, essentially. Which I've been looking forward to because my niece loves pirates, but she is 8, and I'm not letting her on Sea of Thieves with open mic. Like, no, she's too young for that. She's too young for PvP. So now I can actually play with her. And we can have our fun. And hopefully I can play with my sister, who hates PvP because she jump scares easily. But she likes PvE, so. I say all of these things, but what game have I been playing obsessively lately? Subnautica. Which, if you need a game recommendation, the Subnautica series. The Subnautica series. The Subnautica series. I can't recommend it enough. Mind you, I am obsessed with marine biology, so it is a natural thing, but yeah. Subnautica is one of the best games I've ever played. It is single player only, though. Until the 3rd one comes out, which is going to be multiplayer, and I'm so excited for it. Coming out next year. Below Zero is fantastic. It's pretty. It's not as good as the original. I will say that right off the bat. But if you like the original, you'll still like Below Zero. It's still good. It's just, I would say it's just not as big as the first game. That's the key difference. Well, and the storyline is different. Slightly. But better vehicles. I hope not. But they actually did just announce that they were coming out, like they gave a date for it, which they haven't done yet, or they hadn't done for a very long time. So they did finally announce that it was gonna come out in 2025. I'm hopeful. Oh god, I want to play it in VR so badly. I just need to get one of the official MetaQuest cords to connect it to my computer. I tried to get like a knockoff and it just didn't work at all. So I'll have to shell out the $70 for it. Which isn't that bad, but I mean $70 for a cord. Good lord. I'm glad we're getting to the end of these because I'm getting to the end of this paint. Or rather, the usability of it. Yeah, I hear the Riptos is nice. I like my Quest, though. Although, really, all I play on it is Synth Rider and Beat Saber. But I mean, probably good for exercise that way. What time is it? Ooh, it's 1:14. Oh, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Oh, and thanks for the follow. Once I get the rest of it finished, I'm going to charge it up, and I'll probably have pictures of the glow on my Instagram, so you can catch it out later. You sleep well. Yeah, no school tomorrow. That's the thing about teachers. Gotta be envious of that. Everything else, no. But break time, yes. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. You too. again. And then I'm gonna flip the camera back again so you can see it. There we go. So I can see. I may need to touch up the lines here, but at the moment, I just want to do a couple more little things before this paint gets too goopy. All right. I have this all over my hand now because I've been using my fingers to kind of wipe off the excess off the brush as I was going because it's getting super gummy. That's how fast this stuff dries, even when I have it mixed pretty well. So I actually don't know how well the stuff that I just put up here is going to stay. We'll find out. But for now, let's blast some light on it. Move this down a little bit. Brush. ice while it's getting blasted with light. We'll give that a couple minutes to bake, essentially. And while we're waiting, I'm gonna run to the ladies. I'll be back. I'm back. And I just noticed on my Be Right Back screen, I think I have the chat behind the painting for some reason. But, you know. I return. Whew. Excuse me. I return and I yawn in your ear. So if you're yawning now, I apologize. But I'm letting it cook, essentially. Move it this way a bit to get the light over here. I'm gonna give it some good baking time before we actually turn off the lights and test it. I turned off my overheads, so they are ready to go. And we'll see. So right now we're just waiting. Welcome to the wait. Wait time while we bake time. Wait and bake. Wait and bake for the painting. Except it's the painting that's baking. Or is it? Nah, it is the painting. Yeah. So I think aside from the glow that I just put in, the other things that I want to do with this painting is I need to add more wrinkles to its legs here. Legs, arms. Just to give it a little bit more of a stretchy realism, because they are very wrinkled little creatures. Right, Bugger? That's right. I'm gonna give it another minute just so that we get a good strong bake. I don't know how well the two ends are gonna get because the light is really directed right in the center here, which is fine. Makes me think about how, when I do want to show these, how am I going to set that show up so that they see the glow in the dark? If I use blacklight, the blacklight will definitely pop the color of the glow in the dark out because they work together. But I also feel like blacklight is misleading because it will look different. I don't know, I can't say. All right, I can't wait any longer. I need to see. There goes one light. Oh, lovely. So, what's my monitor blocker? There you are. Let me see how much of a difference that makes. You see, it's very hard to see it when I block the monitor completely. Oh, also, I just turned the camera, so that's probably the problem. Why can't you see it? Because the camera's no longer pointing at it, silly. Yeah, it picks it up as I turn it. But it's already losing steam. Now, on my end, I see it a lot more prominently. I want to try and light these up a little bit more. Let's do it again. Oh, that glow looks so nice in real life. It's this really pretty teal. But I can definitely see where I need to do touch-ups here. And then all the way down this arm. This arm's actually pretty fine. You just can't see it. Let me see if I can move it over. Let the camera focus. It struggles. It's struggling to focus. But when I bring this over, you can kind of see. Like you can kind of follow it. But not so much on this side. Like you get about to here, and then you're missing all of this. So that's where we need to make more. Cool. But, oh, let me turn the light back on. Ah, there we are. But we have just about, let me see if I can just get a little bit more out to get these ones right in here done up again. So at the end of this, though. And the thing that I, not worry, but the reason it becomes an issue when it starts to really dry out is what's happening is that because I have a higher pigment load to binder, when it's starting to dry out, it means I'm running out of the binder, essentially. So that when this dries, there's nothing holding the powder onto the canvas because there's not enough binder to it. Now, if I'm real careful, I can paint a layer sealed, like to seal it in onto the canvas and not have to worry about it. Usually with like some sort of a matte medium or going over it again with more acrylic gesso, but on its own, clear. But there's a chance because it is, the pigment is a very gritty base that I could essentially build up something that could be like knocked off or flaked off. Like, were you to touch this in real life, you would absolutely be able to feel where the glow-in-the-dark paint is in comparison to the acrylic paint on the rest of the painting. It would feel very different immediately. It's like a raised texture. Sorry. Must have been very loud. Ugh. The other danger is that if it's too dry, it gets lumpy, and you don't get an even spread of the glow, which causes it to look uneven and misshapen. Which is kind of what I'm fixing right now. Paint is getting so bad. Let's see how that does. See, it looks so chunky right here on stream, but that's all right. For this, once this is dry, and I have a sealing coat over top of it, I actually am going to go through with regular paint and paint detail on top of it so that it looks more realistic. It will cover some of the glow up, but not enough to affect it. Let's see. Does that make it more even? Yeah. Definitely. And then pop those out a bit more too. That's looking nice. I don't know how I'm gonna charge up this entire picture though. It's so long. I'm gonna have like 3 spots lined up next to each other in order to do it. But I think that's a problem for another day. That, I think, looks well done. We'll have to make up another batch. You can see how this is also... You can't actually even tell that it's glowing in here, but it is. I can see it. Oh, that's cool. You really will not be able to see this, but my paint water is also glowing. Very, very faintly. But it does look quite cool. Let me see if I can... It's so hard to see though. What I may do with this particular batch, because it's bad now, but I think it's savable. I'm gonna freeze this, because there is a trick you can do with acrylic paint. You can freeze it, and then once it's thawed, you can use it again. So I'm gonna try freezing it, take it out tomorrow, and see if I can mix in stuff with it to freshen it up, essentially, so I don't waste the rest of it. Because I really don't want to waste any more of it in the experiment. But what I've got going here is a good mix, I think. So, on that note, I think I am going to end the stream for tonight. I know I've been doing short streams lately, but it's late. It's almost 2 in the morning where I am. Even if it is Christmas break. Just washing these off. But I'm out of my glowy paint. And I'm not going to break out the palette. Because I am tired. I will be back on Friday. I'm not sure what time yet, but at some point in time, I will be. But thank you for watching, and have a great evening. And if you don't come back on Friday, have a Merry Christmas. And as soon as I have pictures of the full glow, I will post them to my Instagram and you will see them there. Bye!